Euan Withersby, who's talking about processing the past.
Thank you. I'm going to talk to you this evening about two of my passions, history and technology. For those of you old enough to remember, this is Nightmare, the innovative 80s, 90s TV show, which is kind of a good allegory for where we are at the moment with history and technology interpretation. However, Liverpool has been through many iterations over the centuries, and every time one of these iterations occurs, data is both generated and with demolition and so forth is also lost. The challenge for us is to think about the data that needs to be recorded. And people's usual view of history and technology is of things like websites and databases of archive material. And don't get me wrong, they're brilliant because they enable me to search archives all over the country without leaving home. But the challenge is to use the technology, the amazing technology we have, more creatively to collect, to interpret and to disseminate historical information. We don't want to end up like the poor student over there. Many of you tonight will have probably brought a smartphone or something similar. Those such things in the 11th century where William the Conqueror's staff would go around to towns and villages to collect data, which ended up in a very unstructured way, which, although at the time was great, is not so useful for us. Imagine, though, William the Conqueror had power of what we think of common technology today, SQL, database searching for those of you not initiated, or perhaps ye olde Google Maps. Imagine the map of Monday is a Google map. But the smartphone that I mentioned earlier, that many of you have, is an amazing tool. GPS data, telemetry data, audio, video, all sorts of things can be collected using it. And we use this for projects like World War II ghost signs. On the left we see an emergency rendezvous point, on the right we see an emergency water supply. And you may have seen these signs on walls around the city, and they're part of the air raid precautions from 1938 onwards. We can use our smartphones and other devices for things like geolocation and reverse geolocation, although as I prepared the slide, you've got to be quite careful. I don't know if you can see it, but Leaf seems to have jumped over to Wood Street according to Google. I don't know if anyone noticed that on the way in. But digital mapping can also be good because it allows us to isolate certain types of data. Here we have emergency rendezvous points, and we can contextualize those with each other. But we can also drill down and contextualize it with metadata, including images. And of course, the power of digital mapping is even better because it allows us to add and change what data we're looking at. Here, whether there's a correlation between the emergency water supplies and the rendezvous point, as it turns out there isn't. But it's useful to be able to switch the data in that way. We can also use other common tools for interpretation, such as Google Earth, to go to places which may be inconvenient or inaccessible due to cost or time, such as Barrow-in-Furness and the old American base at Khe Sanh in Vietnam. Augmented reality has certainly improved the user experience of historical interpretation. This is a very simple example, but research is showing that we could actually use this in a tactile form as well. More on this to follow. We also have other amazing techniques. Photogrammetry, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, where we use photographs to actually create 3D digital models, and which can be imported, interacted with, and used. And thanks to Dr. Ben Edwards for that from MMU. So our challenge is one of persistence. Data formats and media are unfortunately extremely volatile in the long term. And one great example of this was the 1980s reboot of the Doomsday Book that we mentioned earlier. Your school may have been involved with it if you're old enough. The data was stored on a Laserdisc and stored in a format which quickly became obsolete. And it wasn't until 2003-2004 that this was accessible again. And these are just some of the challenges we face. There are data standards, and data standards are important, but one thing's becoming clear is that we need to also look at the methodology and the process by which this is used for people to recreate in technology that we don't yet know about. For instance, Star Trek's holodeck. Now it's interesting, take something like the Titanic. We have masses of data on the Titanic, but actually there isn't sufficient data from the period to provide an experience like this that would be completely authentic. We're collecting lots of data all the time now, This shot, you probably can't see it, of the tram lines at Smithdown Place is inadvertently capturing huge amounts of data and metadata. And it's what we do with this that's going to become important. So we've now arrived at an intermediate point where Nightmare has become a reality through AR and VR. But it's what we do now with data and formats and so on that will enable people with future technology that we haven't even dreamt of to be able to use it. Thank you.